Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, also known as Ceylon, lies southeast of its giant neighbor India. It is 25,000 square miles in area with 15 million people. 75% of the population are Sinhalese and 15% constitute the Tamils. The Tamils mainly live in the north and the eastern part of Sri Lanka. The northern part is also known as the Jaffna Peninsula, and the main town in the peninsula is Jaffna. If you travel north from the Jaffna town on the Kanke-Santure road, you will be passing through towns like Chunnagam and Tellipalai. Two miles north of Tellipalai, on the Kanke-Santure road, lies a small village known as Mavuttapuram. On the way to the Mavuttapuram town from Jaffna, scenes like these are very common. Beautiful paddy fields with its red soil sand. Or a market scene like this at the Chunnagam town is another common sight. People come to the town and sell their produces to the public. Scenes like these are another common sight as you travel to Mavuttapuram. The bullock carts were a common form of transportation in the early part of the century. The Mavuttapuram village was well known for its temple. Ponnambalam Sangarapillai, affectionately called Ayah by his children, was born in Mavuttapuram on a Monday, on the 15th of December 1913 at 7:30 a.m. in the Thiruvadurai Nakshathiram, Dhanu Rasi, Singalakkinam. His father was Kumaru Ponnambalam and his mother was Achipillai. Father Kumaru Ponnambalam was a farmer by profession, but he was never actively involved in that field. Mother Achipillai was a housewife, a very pious and a religious lady. Ayah was the second in a family of 6. Kasinadar Kuttithambi was a tall, young, handsome man from Tellipalai. He was born on the 21st of October 1883. He had gone to England and had obtained his law degree in England. From England, he proceeded to Rangoon, Burma to practice law. This picture was taken in the early part of this century. Here, grandfather Kuttithambi is seen with 2 of his relatives. Kanmani. She was the second daughter of Suppapillai. They lived in a small town called Kottari. Kottari was a mile east of the main Jaffna town. In 1915, Kuttithambi came to Jaffna and married Kanmani. She was 16 years at the time of the marriage and he was 33 years old. After the marriage, both the bride and the bridegroom left for Rangoon via Madras. Their first child was born on the 30th of June 1917. They named her Manonmani, affectionately called Amma by her children. Ayah's family was very poor. Since grandfather Ponnambalam never had a permanent job, there was no money in the family. For a short time, grandfather Ponnambalam had run away from Jaffna and lived in Singapore. But he came back to Jaffna after a couple of years. Ayah's family at this time consisted of 5 children. This was Ayah's eldest sister called Mami. Then came Ayah, and after Ayah there were 3 small girls. Unfortunately, we do not know their names. Grandfather Ponnambalam was very feared in the village of Mavatapuram. Ayah would later describe how his father would take all the children to the festival at the Mavatapuram temple. Here, grandfather Ponnambalam would walk the temple grounds with a rattan cane in his hand and would demand peanuts and sweets from the vendors without any payment. The vendors would oblige because they knew what would happen to them if they did not concede to the demands of grandfather Ponnambalam. At the end of the day, the children would happily carry sacks full of peanuts and sweets to their house. In 1926, Ayah's elder sister got married to a person by the name Mr. Veerasingham. Mr. Veerasingham was a contractor building roads for the Ceylonese government at the time. The wedding took place at Mavatapuram in the morning at the bride's house. As a custom, the entire party left for the bridegroom's house in the evening for the celebrations. When they returned back home to Mavatapuram, grandfather Kumaru Ponnambalam was too intoxicated and had gone to sleep at the bridegroom's house. The next day, they found him dead. Though the exact cause was not known, it was strongly believed in the village that the locally brewed alcohol that he had consumed the previous night might have played a role in grandfather Kumaru Ponnambalam's death. He was in his early 40s when he died. The family was shattered. They had no money. Grandmother Achupillai was unconsolable. The eldest daughter got married only the day before her husband's death. Ayah was only 13 years old, and after Ayah, there were 3 small girls, their ages ranging from 6 to 9. To the horror of the family, it was revealed that grandmother Achupillai was 4 months pregnant at the time of her husband's death. The last son was born as Nadarasa Ponnambalam. He would never see his father's face. While Ayah's family was living in abject poverty in Mavatapuram, Amma's family was very wealthy in Rangoon. Grandfather Kuttitambi was a leading criminal lawyer in the city of Rangoon. They lived in a luxury apartment at 21 35th Street, Rangoon. They had 5 small children, Amma being the eldest. She was 9 years old. Then came Jayaratnam, followed by Rasaratnam, Shanmugaraja, and Thore Ratnam. Grandmother Kanmani had aged. By 1928, she has had 5 children and she was pregnant with the 6th. Grandfather Kuttitambi loved his wife Kanmani. He would tell her that she was very lucky to him. Grandfather Kuttikkambi wrote many books on law while he was in Rangoon. These books won praise both from the legal circles and the English press in the city of Rangoon. In 1928, Grandfather Kuttikkambi decided to contest the Rangoon municipal elections. He had the money and the power to do it. It was at the height of this fame and wealth that the fate had a different story for the Kuttikkambi family. Grandmother Kanmani wanted to return back to Kottadi for the delivery of her sixth child. She decided to take Amma and her youngest two sons, Shanmugaratnam and Jairatnam, along with her. Grandmother Kanmani gave birth to a beautiful child, a girl, in November of 1928, but died unexpectedly within a week after she gave birth to this child due to complications arising from pregnancy. The newborn child would also die within 2 months. It was so ironic that on the day Grandmother Kanmani died in Kottadi, Grandfather Kuttikkambi was elected to the municipal council elections in Rangoon and was being paraded on the streets of Rangoon celebrating his victory. He did not make it to the funeral of his wife because it would have taken him at least a month to reach Kottadi from Rangoon in 1928. It was a devastating blow to Grandfather Kuttikkambi. He had everything in his life: name, power, and wealth, and 5 beautiful children. But he had lost his young wife. He would never recover from this tragedy until he died. Ayah's early education was at the Union College in Tellipalai and later at the Victoria College in Chulipuram. He was a brilliant but a shy student. It was while at the Victoria College he came under the influence of the then principal, Mr. Sevapada Sundaram, who was a famous Tamil scholar at the time. Mr. Chellaya was a former commissioner of labor in the Sri Lankan government. He was a contemporary of Ayah at the Victoria College. Here, he recalls Ayah's days at Victoria College in Chulipuram.
A small amount of friend. I had the privilege of being a contemporary of his at Victoria College, Chulipuram. He was a shy man. He was very simple. He would rather shun publicity. And if anybody went up to him and called him up, come on, why don't lead a discussion? No, you see, I would rather keep that. நீங்கள் என்ன மன்னிக்கணும், நான் பின்னுக்கு நின்று உதவி செய்கிறேன்.
Grandfather Kuttithambi came to Kottadi for the first time in 1930 after his wife Kanmani's death. He was determined to take his daughter Amma and two of his younger sons, Shanmugaraja and Thureratnam, back with him to Rangoon. But Amma's grandmother, Thangamuthu, was prepared to send the sons back with their father, but she would not send her granddaughter, Amma, with their father. She had heard rumors that grandfather Kuttithambi's relatives were trying to fix a second marriage for him. Rumors do travel very fast then and even now in the Jaffna Peninsula. Amma's grandmother Thangamuthu feared that if grandfather Kuttithambi marries outside the Kottadi village, he would completely cut off all his links with Kottadi and she would never get to see her grandchildren frequently. Hence, she decided to move fast and made a very bold decision. She would find a suitable girl for her own son-in-law, and she did find one. Her name was Tellayamma, born and raised in Kottadi, but was living with a brother in Batiklo at the time. Grandfather Kuttithambi married Tellayamma in Kottadi in 1930. He was 47 and she was 28. It was the second marriage for him and the first for Tellayamma. After the marriage, they left for Rangoon via Madras with his two sons. His daughter, Amma, stayed back in Kottadi as planned by Amma's grandmother, Thangamuthu. This picture appeared in an English paper, The Hindu, published from Madras, announcing their marriage. Ayah passed his exam and got a job as a grade 2 clerk at the Attorney General's office in Colombo. The entire family's responsibility fell on Ayah's shoulder. He had a very sick mother to take care of. He had 3 unmarried sisters to be married off. He was more than a father to his young brother who had never seen his father. At this time, Ayah's salary was a mere 40 rupees. He would keep 20 rupees for his own personal expenses and would send the balance 20 rupees promptly back to his house. It was during this time that he got into a habit that would last for a very, very long time until he gave it up in 1983. He started to smoke the famous Kanagalingam cigars or Kanagalingam Churuttu. Amma would spend her early life in Kottari with the grandparents Suppapillai and Thangamuthu. She went to school to Ramanathan College for a year. Here, she did not like the boarding life and the strict discipline, and hence she joined the Vermbury School as a day scholar. She quit her schooling at the age of 15. Amma's grandparents, Suppapillai and Thangamuthu, had a great impact on her. They were more than a mother and a father to her. Later in life, Amma would describe how a grandfather Suppapillai and grandmother Thangamuthu had showered their love on her.
Tall, well-built and of fair complexion. He had a lump on the middle of his chest. Appu went to Colombo to consult a doctor. They told it was aneurysm. An operation will be fatal at his age. He was too careful and will not exert much. Everything he will hold on. Even walking he will hold on to his servant boy. He was a good eater. Grandma must make him fresh meals 3 times a day. When a grandchild peeped at his plate, he will bite a half of an egg and give the other half. We used to laugh at this. His rich brother in Rangoon used to send him monthly allowance, installments of money. He was a sickly, frail, asthmatic person. Her 2 sons, Ramaya and Rasaya, were young boys. Her eldest daughter, my Periyamma, lived outstations with her family. But 4 of her children, Nadesan, Mahesan, Maheshwari and Saras, were with grandma for schooling. So there were with us altogether 7 grandchildren to look after for her. With the servants, she will work from morning till night. I have never seen her going to temples. Even for weddings, she seldom goes. She loved her neighbors very dearly. She had a tender heart for the poor and downtrodden. She will listen to their tales of suffering. When a hungry woman knocks at the door at lunchtime, Grandma, who is the last person to eat in our house, will gladly offer her plate of rice to that friend. She will make a cup of tea for herself and be satisfied. When questioned, she will say, the food is enjoyed up to the throat only. But if you give it to another with love, that happiness will last more.
Amma would later describe how she spent a teenage life at Kottari.
there's a procession or something, we'll go to the gate and watch, that's all. You are not allowed to go to movies.
So you are telling us that you never saw a movie until you got married?
Yes. We didn't go to the school after I was 15 years old. Always inside the house. That was even to the temples we were not allowed to go. But I spent my time nicely. I used to read a lot even at nights. Used to get the papers, daily newspapers, Tamil and English papers. We used to read that. And there were a lot of children and cooking and to clean the garden, clean the house. So there was so much of work.
Tell me briefly, how did the day go by? What time did you guys get? What time did you get up?
Usually, as all others, like all the children, lazy to get up. But my uncle Ramaya, he will come round and put us up. Then we'll go and wash our face and we'll have a bath. We have to draw the water from the well to have a bath. Then wash our clothes. Not that easy. We had to do a lot of work. And then we had a big garden. We had a lot of coconut trees. When the coconuts were plucked, we had to go and gather all the coconuts and bring them. And we had a nice time back then.
A deadly attack of typhoid fever was spreading very fast in the Jaffna Peninsula. People were dying in hundreds. Mavatapuram and its surrounding villages were especially affected. Ayah's entire family fell sick. Ayah escaped because he was working in Colombo at the time. Ayah's only brother, Balichanaya, was almost given up for being dead, but he was very lucky and survived. But Ayah's 3 unmarried sisters were not as lucky as their brother. All 3 of them died of typhoid fever within a week. It was such a pathetic incident that even the Jaffna newspapers had carried this story, and Amma had read this in the newspaper and had sympathized with this unknown family at the time in 1936. The family was so poor that they did not have money to cremate the sisters. Ayah would later recall how he had gone from house to house in Mavatapuram, almost begging for money for the funeral expenses, and he was turned away in almost all the places. This incident had a great impact in his life. He would later recall that had his family saved some money, he could have given his sisters a decent cremation, and hence his lifelong habit of saving started from this time onwards. He was also very much attached to his daughters. When questioned, he would always tell us that his daughters reminded him of his 3 dead sisters. World War II had just broken out. The Japanese were advancing from the east, and there was a fear that they would invade Burma. It was at this time that there was an anti-foreign feeling, especially against the Indians in the city of Rangoon. Indians and Sri Lankans were leaving Burma in hundreds. It was at this critical juncture that grandfather Kuttithambi decided to quit Burma permanently and to settle down in Jaffna. When grandfather Kuttithambi came to Jaffna, as his mother-in-law had wished, he not only settled down in Kottadi, but lived as a neighbor till he died. By this time, he had a boy named Tyagaraja and a girl named Saraswati by his second marriage. In 1938, Amma was 21 years old. Grandfather Kuttithambi was very anxious to find a suitable partner for his daughter Amma. In those days in Jaffna, girls were married off before they turned 20, and Amma was almost 22 and was getting old. Grandfather Kuttithambi was very choosy. He wanted a boy who was wealthy and educated. A combination very difficult to find then and even now. He was rejecting many proposals on the grounds that the boy did not have the status. Amma's grandmother Thangamuthu was very worried that her granddaughter Amma was not getting married. Hence, she took the matters into her own hand. She sent word through her friends to find a suitable partner for her granddaughter. But she laid some conditions. The boy should be tall and fair and should be of good character. She felt that it was the character and not the status that played an important part in a married life. She would always tell that if one had character, then the status would automatically come. A search led to this man. His name was Sangarapillai, age 25, height 5'8", complexion fair, character excellent. Grandfather Kuttithambi was never told of this proposal until everything was fixed. Initially, he was very apprehensive of the proposal because of Ponnambalam Sangarapillai's dire family situation. But later he was somewhat satisfied because the boy, in spite of his hardship, had come up in life to some extent. The grandfather Kuttithambi lived to see his son-in-law becoming a triple graduate later in his life, and he was indeed very proud of this. Would later describe how the proposals were going on.
Because I being a tall girl, she wanted a person taller than me, so she sent her son to Colombo. And there, that time, I was in Falstaff in a boarding. So Periya Mama went, and when he went, Ayah was preparing for an exam and he was studying always. He used to study in the weekends. So he was seated in a easy chair and studying. So Mama went and saw him and talked to him, and he was satisfied, and he came and told my grandmother.
When did they inform you about this marriage proposal? Did you know that this proposal was going on during this time?
Yes, they told, my grandmother told me that there's a proposal is going on, and the elders will come to see me, and I was also ready.
Did anyone from Mountappuram come to see you?
Females didn't come because his mother was bedridden, and sister was also unable to come because she was not on good terms with her husband. So 2 elderly men came.
And what did they do and what did they talk?
They didn't talk to me. Those days they won't talk, they just see and go.
But Ayah was not there.
Ayah was not there. Ayah came on the day that registration took place.
That was how many days before the marriage?
That was a week before the marriage.
So that was the first time you saw Ayah?
Yes, that was the first time.
On the day of the registration?
Yes.
And what did you think of him at the time?
Yeah.
When you saw him for the first time?
He looked a good charactered person. So I thought he will be a suitable person.
What was the first word that he told you? The first sentence?
That day he didn't talk to me.
He didn't talk to you at all?
No, he didn't talk to me at all.
So when you say registration, both of you all were seated on a table and signed the papers?
No, he was with the gents outside on the veranda. So he signed there, and then the registrar brought the paper to me and he got the signature.
But you saw him and he saw you?
Yeah.
But there was
A
no...
few minutes only.
But there was no talk involved?
No.
No talk?
No.
Grandfather Kututhambi spent lavishly on the wedding of his daughter. He was reported to have spent 5,000 rupees at the time. The wedding took place in the evening. About 250 guests were invited. One of the flower girls was Tila Akka. The Mapia Poland was Amma's brother, Rasu Mama. color of the Nakura sari, the sari that is worn before tying the thali, was of peacock blue color, and the main sari, the Kura sari, was of gold color. Both the bride and the bridegroom never spoke a word during the ceremony. They spoke for the first time in their life during the dinner after the wedding ceremony. Hence, they were married as husband and wife. They would raise 8 children, one of which would die very young. They faced many difficulties and obstacles, but they would face these with courage and determination. Financially, they were not well to do, but they lived within their means. Ayah's mother could not attend the wedding as she was very sick. After the wedding, both the bridegroom and the bride went to Ayah's house in Mountappuram to get her blessings. Here, Amma recalls that
Yes, at 10 p.m. and first they were told that they won't come. Then my uncle decided that we should go and visit his mother. So we went in the night. I told she was very sickly, bedridden. Then when we went, she blessed us. She told both of you, God will bless you and you will be blessed with good children and a prosperous life. She blessed me.
the years from 1935 to 1950 was the most difficult period in Amma's and Ayah's life. They were a young married couple struggling to come up in life. Ayah's mother, Achipillai, would die within 6 months of Ayah's marriage. She died possibly due to cancer of a uterus. During this period, they would have 5 children and would move into 4 different houses. After marriage, Amma and Ayah stayed at Dhammatakura with Sivanyana Mama for a short time, but moved into an apartment at the Sancharachi Gardens in Halstaff in 1939. In 1939, Amma was pregnant with her first child. Amma and Ayah's first child was a son named Siddharthan. Amma had Siddharthan a year after her marriage. She went to Jaffna when she was 8 months pregnant to have the delivery and came back 3 months after she gave birth to Siddharthan. Amma would later recall the birth of her first child and son.
39.
Do you remember the date and the month?
Yes, it was exact same date as Asokan, June 28th.
What was the time?
He was born early morning, I think. And then I was there in Jaffna for 3 months. Then I came and lived in Halston. That is called Sanchiarachi Gardens. And my uncle Rasaya Mama, he also wanted to go to law college. He was going to law college and he wanted to stay with us. Before that he was staying in a boarding called Udeni in Mardana Road. Then he came and joined us and he stayed with us. We had a servant, a young servant boy called Saravana and Siddhartha was a small baby. Uncle used to go to law college by rickshaw. It's about 5 minutes from there. And we stayed there, but the house, Ayah, myself, and the baby and Uncle Rasaya stayed. Quite a big house, but a very old house. And Ayah used to go and play volleyball in the evenings. Sanchiarachi Gardens, they had a volleyball court also. So I used to go and play daily. Ayah was very good at playing volleyball, and then every evening he won't miss his game.